Acceptable worship, offering our finest. Main scripture. Exodus chapter 10 verse 9. Moses answered, "We will go with our young and our old, with our sons and our daughters, and with our flocks and herds, because we are to celebrate a festival to the Lord." The purpose of God's selection is for us to serve Him, meaning we are chosen to hold a festival, which represents the Sabbath, and furthermore, to present offerings to Him. Worship as God commands. A crucial aspect of worship is ensuring it aligns with God's command. Exodus chapter 8 verse 27. Our worship must be conducted precisely as He instructs. Worship entails offering both our bodies and material offerings to God. He has provided guidelines for how we should present our bodies and our offerings in worship. We should conduct our worship in adherence to these guidelines. Cain and Abel. What constitutes acceptable worship? Worshipping God was the fundamental reason the Israelites were chosen. This concept is called the purpose of Exodus. The purpose of Exodus provides the foundational understanding of the Bible. For instance, without understanding this purpose, the story of Cain and Abel remains mysterious to us. Number 1. A life without evils. Cain and his offering were rejected, while Abel and his offering were accepted by God. Genesis chapter 4 verses 3 to 5. Some suggest that the presence of blood in Abel's offering made it acceptable, while its absence in Cain's led to rejection. But is that biblically true? Is the inclusion of blood in sacrifices a prerequisite for acceptable worship? Isaiah chapter 1 verse 9. It is noteworthy that the Israelites too offered sacrifices with blood, yet their offerings were rejected by God. God treated their offerings as a detestable murder. Isaiah chapter 66 verse 3. Akin to breaking a dog's neck and presenting pig's blood. The consequences of their detestable offerings were the manifestation of their deepest fear. Isaiah chapter 66 verse 4. Therefore, the absence of blood in sacrifices cannot be the reason behind the rejection of our worship. Then, what's the true cause? The rejection was due to the evil deeds they performed before God. Isaiah chapter 66 verse 4. Therefore, a life without evils is an acceptable one in worship. Number 2. The finest, the firstborn. Numbers chapter 18 verse 12. I give you all the finest olive oil and all the finest new wine and grain they give the Lord as the first fruits of their harvest. Numbers chapter 18 verse 15. The first offspring of every womb, both human and animal, that is offered to the Lord is yours. But you must redeem every firstborn son and every firstborn male of unclean animals. Another criterion for acceptable worship involves the firstborn. The firstborn or the first fruit represents the finest of our possessions. Abel indeed presented the firstborn of his flock, meaning he had offered to God the finest of what he had. How about Cain? The verses don't specify that Cain's offering was his first, leading us to infer that his offering's rejection stemmed from it not being the best he could provide. Hebrews chapter 11 verse 4. By faith, Abel brought God a better offering than Cain did. By faith he was commended as righteous, when God spoke well of his offerings. And by faith Abel still speaks, even though he is dead. Conclusion. For our worship to be acceptable, we must uphold the purity of our lives and present the very best of what we possess as an offering.